Do you ever feel like your mandolin's fighting you more than you're playing it?
Maybe it's not your mandolin, maybe it's your gear. Whether you're on a budget or looking for the best of the best, today we are counting down the top 10 mandolin accessories that every player needs to take their playing to the next level.
And don't forget to stick around to the end of the video because we are going to give you 5 things you should stop doing right now to immediately improve your playing. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into our top list. But before we do that, make sure you like and subscribe below. If you do enjoy anything, you know what? Even if you don't enjoy this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. It costs you nothing, and you'll feel like a better person for it.
I think, yeah, if you don't enjoy this and you push the button,
it's like a chain letter.
Great things will happen in the future.
If you do not click that button, bad things are going to happen. That's what's more likely. Anyway, guys, I want to jump right into the accessories that I think will make your mandolin playing journey a little bit more enjoyable.
Are some of these over here?
Number 1, you need a tuner, guys. This has 8 different strings, and they're tuned in unison, and you get one of those off by just a little bit. That is unpleasant, to say the least. And that's where a tuner comes in. Especially,
I didn't think anything could get more unpleasant.
Believe me, if I get all 4 of those out of tune, it's going to be very uncomfortable for all of us. We'll actually get banned by YouTube if we do that.
Get one of those.
Yeah, a tuner. They come very affordable these days. These are, this is one of my favorites. This is the Eclipse tuner for D'Addario. It actually uses the vibration from your instruments. You just click it to the headstock. Ooh. You can be in a loud room and it's just feeling the vibration of the instrument. It automatically detects what note you're playing or attempting to play and tells you if it's flat or sharp, and then you can tighten up the string to get it right in pitch. So
good point, Jeremy. I know a lot of people are finding apps nowadays that can tune it, but I'm here to tell you, having that isolation is not possible with a tuner, and it makes a huge difference on how accurate your tuner works.
Yeah, so that's my favorite one for a budget that's under $20. They have a rechargeable battery version of that. I think it's about $29. So really good option, the D'Addario Eclipse tuner. I also like for kind of a mid-range tuner, the NS Micro Tuner. This one could stay on your mandolin, so if you only have one instrument, it's a great option because it just stays on there. Very discreet, it's on the back of the headstock. Does the same sort of thing, but just more a smaller, more discreet version of that. And then my favorite, and I know this is your favorite too, we've been using these ones for 20 years, the Peterson Strobe Tuner. This is their new Strobo Clip HD. Still does HDC, yeah, because it's rechargeable with the color screen. Clips to the headstock again, but these have sweeteners, so it has one specific for mandolin, which does have some frequencies that can trick other tuners. Some of these high E and A notes, this tells it to expect it in that frequency range and kind of gets like that sweet spot for your tuning. The most accurate tuner on the market. This is one I've used for years. Whichever one you end up going for, it is an essential thing to have for a mandolin. It sounds very, very bad, as I said, if it's just slightly off, so make sure you get yourself a tuner. All right, the next thing that I have on my list is a flat pick. If you're playing the mandolin, it's not really a fingerstyle instrument. I have heard a few people do some fingerstyle stuff on it.
It's pretty neat.
Extremely rare. Most of the time we're using what they used to call a plectrum, but now they call a flat pick. And getting one for your mandolin is essential. I recommend kind of a medium gauge. You want a little bit medium to heavy gauge, because if you get one of those thin ones that a lot of electric guitar players use, you get a lot of pick noise. You have so many strings that it just accentuates every single time the pick touches a string. So get a medium to heavy. I use a 1mm pick. I'm big, if you want like an affordable one, the Dunlop Prime Tones ones I've used a bunch. They have them in triangle or in the teardrop shape, some with grip, some without. A very good option. You get 3 picks for under $10. A really nice tone to them, and they last a long time.
So these are a little bit of an upgrade from your basic 35-cent, 50-cent picks.
Thank you, John. You're correct. Yeah, they do have like the Duralin material, and I use the purple one, which is pretty universal cost. So the spectrum, if you get them from Fender or D'Addario, for being about a 1.2 to 1.5 millimeter. I also like the same thickness in the Jim Dunlop, a big step up, because they actually bevel the edges of those so that when your pick attacks the strings, it's a lot smoother sounding. A mid-range one, the D'Addario Case-In. This is I'm
going to be your
collaboration. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Collaboration with Chris Thiele, where some of this funds are being donated to a charity. But great sounding pick, lasts a long time. Really nice pick. And then my favorite that I use a lot, I use 2 different ones. I use the Blue Chip. This is again the Chris Thiele CT55, and also the Tone Slab pick. I have one of those with my own signature on it that I use often too. So those are my 2 favorite picks. Those are a premium pick. And I would say if you're brand new to the mandolin, you probably don't need to jump right into the $45 picks. But once you've been playing for a little while, and I've had students that do this, they say, I don't think I'd notice a difference, and they come back to me and say, it made all the difference in the world. Better tone, better durability, these last forever, and they are, like I said, beveled on the edges, burnished, if you will, and I will. Makes it a lot, your attack much nicer to the strings, makes a big difference. I would never go back. I can't. I've tried before going back to some of those Duralins, and it's difficult.
You say that not necessarily from the beginning. I've had students that found that they did jump into the higher end picks from the beginning, and they don't go back. When they grab something else, it's like, nope, I can't play with that. So.
Like I said, it's a wonderful time to be living in where we have premium picks, and it does make a difference. All right, this is one that is essential, John. You have to have strings, otherwise this doesn't work. The instrument entirely falls apart, the bridge comes off. You need strings, and I have a few strings that I would recommend. My favorite for tone, I've been using this for a long time, is the GHS Silk and Bronze strings. They are the LSB 250s. They bring out that woody tone in your instrument and really make a difference to make that real deep, round, lower end tone. So that's my favorite string. And the great thing about strings is they're not very expensive, and every mandolin kind of needs help in some areas. So experiment with them. Try ones that, just because I love the Silk and Bronze doesn't mean that's the right one for your mandolin. Test them out and try them. There are also coated strings that will last a lot longer and have more durability. So we're going to talk about some of those. The next one is about long life, and this is my new favorite string for long life, and that is the D'Addario XS strings. I use the medium gauge. It keeps all of the oils and skin flakes and moisture from the air from getting into the winding of the string to kill the tone. It actually weighs down the string, starts to rust it a little bit, and just kind of kills the tone, where a coated string will last you up to 3 times longer. If you're like, again, a mandolin is a little difficult to change strings. You got to feed them through the bridge. You got 8 of them. It's a bit of a pain to change, especially if you're new to it. So getting a coated string that you don't have to change as often is a great option. And then this brings me to the best value. If you just want a valuable string, I recommend everybody have an extra spare set of strings in their case, because if you break one, you are going to need to replace it. So if you just want a good value one, the Martin medium mandolin strings, they are Monal wound, which is a little warmer of a tone. A very good option out there. Those come in under $6, $7, so a really good option to have in your case. Not a big expense to have. A must-have for every mandolin player out there.
It's like less than $1 a string.
That's less than a cup of coffee in most places. Speaking of strings, John, if you're changing 8
Were
strings,
we speaking of those?
I was.
Oh, yeah.
If you're changing 8 strings and you're winding these things, and these are small little tuner buttons, you have to crank that thing a lot to get it up to pitch or to de-string it. I really recommend getting yourself a string winder / clipper. These are great if you're changing your own strings. It basically, you could just sit there and wind like this. It spins on a axis, gets you a lot more winds quicker. And they also have a string clipper in there, so you can clip the strings at the headstock, but also when you're taking off the old strings so that you don't have to feed them through the bridge. I really love the D'Addario Planet Waves Pro Winder. It's a really good option because it has that clipper built in and it has the winder. And I also love the one from Music Nomad because it does have that rubber edge. And with these F-style mandolins, you kind of have this little curve here, and a lot of times that plastic one can scratch the headstock.
Yeah.
So I like the one with the rubber rubber grip on there. And all of them are really cool because I have a side slot for these smaller buttons on there. So you want to make sure you use that. I think that's a must-have. John, a mandolin strap. You want to be able to hold this thing while you're standing, and even when you're playing, especially if you have an A-style. The F-style, I love this point because I just kind of lay it on my leg and it doesn't tip on me. If you have an A-style, and I'll still do this, I'll find it just constantly slipping because it's basically a teardrop shape. It does not want to hold on. So having a mandolin strap, even if you're sitting, is a must-have. With the F-styles, we do have straps that are made for F-style that will wrap around the scroll of the mandolin. A-styles, most of the time, I recommend getting a strap button like you would on a guitar, and then they have A-style mandolin straps that have a buttonhole on both ends of it. You can also get the ones that will attach to the headstock. I'm not a big fan of those because of our angle here, your hand often runs into that string and kind of gets in your way. So a must-have either way if you're standing or sitting. And then little tip here.
I'm ready for it.
If you're going to set your mandolin strap, set it at the same height. So when you're putting it on and adjusting them, they're all adjustable and they have different holes on them or can adjust on the back of the strap. Set it where you do when you're sitting, because that's probably where you're going to do most of your practicing, so that when you stand up, the mandolin is going to be that same height rather than way down doing like a slash.
Oh, I like that. You should do it.
It looks
that way.
really cool on stage, but it's
You
very
should
difficult
do
to play.
it that way.
Play down here if you've been practicing up here. So use your sitting position to set the strap height. All right, John, another one that I would really recommend, if your mandolin did not come with a case, which if there are a lot of affordable options out there that don't come with a case, I highly recommend getting one.
Yeah.
Even if you do mainly keep it inside your home, a case helps add that extra protection if you have dogs, kids, wives that don't like your mandolin playing, or husbands. You want to have it in a case where it's protected. But also it really helps you to create a good humidity environment. You can just humidify the inside of the case, keeping your instrument well humidified. So a gig bag is a really good option. I have a gig bag that sometimes when I'm out traveling, I will take that because it's very convenient. It has backpack straps. It has extra pockets that you can keep some of your gear. But if you're really serious about protecting it, a hard shell case is the way to go. Like I said, if your mandolin did not come with one, there's a lot of great options out there for A-style or F-style mandolins. And
Here's a little tip for you. If you are thinking and you're running an A-style right now and you think someday you might want an F-style, buy an F-style case, because you can use that F-style case.
it does not work the other way, though. If you do have an F-style mandolin, it will not fit in an A-style case. A-style cases are made like an A-style mandolin without the scroll and points, but an F-style one just basically adds a little extra space for those three things.
I just wanted to share that because I felt pretty smart
Very
about
nice tip there,
mandolins.
John.
Thank you.
So yeah, get one. I also like the ones that have the arch top on them because it gives that extra downward protection. That arch is a lot harder to push down in, and we do have this bridge almost directly touching the top of that case. So you want to make sure that nothing's pushing down on it, because then that would maybe collapse your top on there. If you are a serious traveling musician, or you have an heirloom instrument or one that you just really invested in and want to protect, that's when flight cases come in. I own a Calton case that I've had 28 years, 30 years. We've flown to Europe numerous times, Canada, traveled the US. It is beat up and worn out on the outside, but the inside is protected by instrument every step of the way. They are pricey. There are carbon fiber versions of them. There are also the Calton one is a fiberglass case. They add a lot of extra weight. Luckily with mandolin, we don't have a lot of it, so it's manageable. But if you are traveling a lot, if you're planning on flying often with it, or if you have a very expensive mandolin, it is worth investing in a flight case, and I wouldn't travel with that one. A pickup, John, and I'm not talking about the truck.
Everybody likes
My
a
girl likes
pickup
my
man.
We're talking about amplifying this instrument. A mandolin is, when you're in a room by yourself, it projects well. If you're on a stage, it can get buried in the mix a little bit. It also can be feedback prone to use a microphone, and that's where pickup is a great option. If your mandolin did not come with a pickup installed, it is a pretty affordable way to be able to compete on stage, or if you just in your own house want to have a practice amp, a really good option. So installing a pickup in your instrument, I have one in every one of my mandolins, and love it, especially like I said, performing out. K&K, the twin internal is my favorite one. It has the two transducers that go underneath the top of the mandolin. Really uses the vibration of the instrument to recreate and reproduce the sound, with the M-pen jack coming out the end there. There are other options. Fishman has one built into the bridge that sounds really good, and LR Bags also has some really good options. So you have options out there. Do a little research, figure out what is best for you. The great thing about them is you can get much more volume on stage without the feedback, and compete with those big guitars and banjos and whatever you might be playing with. So a pickup is something that I would not do without. John, this is a fun one. These made their appearance maybe about 10 years ago. I started to see these on mandolins and said, what is that? I used to think like people would have these in like these weird patterns. And I thought, man, that's like some kind of a cue device where you're cueing your instrument. Like, does it make a difference how they're lined up? You can make any pattern you want. You can have fun with it. But really what they're here for is to kill that overtone. With a mandolin, we have a big space between the bridge and the tailpiece, and those strings are sympathetic. Like if I'm playing over here, the string is vibrating over here, but it's also causing a vibration on the back side of it, especially when we're doing like that percussive rhythm chop. You'll get like this ching sound on that back side without the grommets. It's just this overtone that
gets rid of all that crazy ringing stuff.
Yeah, it can be very annoying on stage, or especially if you're in a studio, you just hear it like, oh gosh, what is that sound? So grommets, these are great. They're these little rubber things. They're actually meant for wiring, to keep wires apart from each other, but they work excellent to go between the two pairs of each string, or the course of strings for the E, A, D, and G. And they just, as you can tell, there's just no chance for those strings to vibrate back there. So grommets, very inexpensive upgrade. You will notice a huge difference in your mandolin. All right, John, this brings me to one of my favorite upgrades. I've had one of these since way back when they were like hand welded and there weren't many of them out there, and people were like, what is that on the back of your instrument?
A pedal car.
No, it is a tone guard. Thank you for that. You are such a good help. A tone guard for band. You got one over there?
I do, actually.
A tone guard is a cage that goes on the back of your instrument, and this is not like a cage of a fight club. This is a cage, and I got one for a octave mandolin here, so it's a little exaggerated. My mandolin shrunk. Thank you, John. You've been fired. Anyway, it goes on the back of the instrument. The mandolin one fits tight to this, but the main purpose of it is to keep the back of the mandolin, which you may not realize produces a lot of tone and volume. It keeps it off of your stomach. So when you're playing, sitting down or standing up, that mandolin's sitting against you and it kills that. If anybody watched Bill Monroe, he used to like hold his mandolin up here and out, and that's to keep that mandolin off the back of him. That really changes your posture. The tone guard lets you keep it in the same position, but keeps it off. You can hear that volume there versus if I had it on my stomach. You can even hear it like I'll do it in the middle of it. I'll get close to the mic, that cheats. It's like a wah-wah pedal. Anyway, so one of my favorite devices, it's not an expensive upgrade either. They come under $100 to $115 depending on which pattern you get, but it makes a huge difference keeping that off and will double, it feels to me it doubles the volume of your instrument. It actually helps the tone. It gives you a lot more of the bass response on it too. So look at those tone guards. I'm a huge fan. If you look at some of your favorite players out there, Chris Thile, well, I could go through a whole list of Sam Bush. A lot of these guys, you see them on stage, they will have one of those on the back of their mandolin because it makes that big of a difference. None of these things matter, John, if you're not taking care of your instrument. And these are, a mandolin in particular is a lot of downward tension because we have such a short
Mandolins are more important.
Mandolin especially, like they are so particularly special. They have so much downward pressure with these 8 strings in a short scale that carving that top is very precise and needs a lot of care and attention when they're building the instrument. But also, if you are not properly humidifying it and that starts to dry out or gets too much humidity, a lot of these tops can sink or crack or completely break on you. And you'll notice that where like the F style or the F hole, one side of it's lower than the other one, where the top's just starting to sink. It is essentially essential that you humidify and properly maintain humidity of your instrument, and that's keeping it in that 45 to 50% range. It prevents cracking, it prevents the fretboard from shrinking and leaving some fret ends sticking out, and like I said, it keeps that top from really having all that strain end up catastrophically ending in the explosion of your mandolin. So if I haven't scared you with that, I don't know what will, but I really prefer the D'Addario Humidipacks. They are kind of a set it and forget it. With mandolin, we only really need one of the packs in there because it's a small case and a small instrument. So that'll last you, one purchase of one will last you probably most of the year. So every 3 months, go in there, check it, see if it's getting hard, replace it. It's kind of like an oil change where that's part of the maintenance routine. They do have other options that are sponge-based, also some gel packs. You had to keep refilling those. My biggest problem, I used to have those, is I never would check it and refill it until I was not at a place with access to a sink. So I would check it, it's like, oh man, this is a dry sponge in my mandolin, that's not helping at all. The humid packs, I put them in the case. When I pull my mandolin out, close the case, that keeps that case environment at the right humidity level, and it is a must-have. If you talk to it will actually void your warranty if you have not properly been maintaining humidity. So check out you can either get it from Boveda, also they actually engineered and designed the original pack, but we use the D'Addario a lot in our business. So check those out. I highly recommend, a must-have for your collection. All right, John, that is my not entirely exhaustive list, but my favorite accessories for mandolin. I own all of the things that we mentioned in this video, and I think the players, whether they're a beginner or an expert, can definitely advantage from having those.
Yeah, definitely stuff that you would find value in.
I did, that's why I put them on the list. But now we're going to go into those 5 things that you need to stop doing right now to get more out of your mandolin playing and to improve immediately. And I'm going to start with number 1.
What is it?
It is right hand technique. Most of us ignore the right hand, how we hold the pick, where it sits on the mandolin, and where the strings are located. We really focus on this left hand, and really that's where all the notes are happening. But the right hand could be a lot of our troubled area. So I warm up every practice with just some right hand techniques. I recommend planting your hand. That gives you kind of a nice pivot point. Some players, excellent players, will plant on the top. There are those like Sam Bush that can go almost from the edge of the mandolin and still be accurate. But I do recommend it more close to the bridge. Behind the bridge, like I said earlier, doesn't really affect any of the tones, so I set my hand down there and then practice, hold your pick in your right hand and then just practice these short movements. There's a lot of different exercises out there, but Don't overlook your right hand. It's making a lot of the
Do it in
quality.
threes. Do it in 12s.
I know in 12. Anyway, work on that right hand. The second thing to stop doing is holding too much tension. Tension on your mandolin makes all the things more difficult. This is in the left hand and in the right hand.
Doing that.
Stop being, loosen up, man, loosen up. So that includes the right hand. The pick really needs to be flexible in your grip. And I recommend kind of a trigger finger, set the pick on there, lightly set your thumb on there, and then just really lightly, I want the strings to make that pick move in my hand. If I'm holding tight at all, and it gets stuck on the string.
Jeremy, that's
loosen
not
up.
good.
It is not. That is not pleasant at all. Loosen up. The strings will actually let the pick move in your hand, and that will make a huge difference. Loosen up. Same thing with your left hand. The more tension you hold in this arm, the slower you're going to be. Your fingers don't move as quick. And you're also going to fatigue a lot faster. So loosen up both hands. You want them to be like you shook a rag loose, and just that's the grip you have for the rest of your playing. So loosen up. Another thing you should stop doing is think that you have perfect timing. You do not.
Yeah, you do.
Well, you got enough things to think about while you're playing your instrument to concentrate on timing too. A metronome is a great tool because it's just sitting there saying, all right, here's the beat, you work around me, and then you can focus on what you're doing on the right hand, so
Yeah.
or with your playing melodies. I will sit there with a metronome just doing a kind of tick, 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 and when you're doing those right hand exercises, it kind of takes some of the focus off of you having to pay attention to timing, and it's kind of making an internal clock for you. And it's also a great practice tool. So if the last time that I worked on Old Joe Clark, I was at 35 beats a minute, I pushed myself up to 40 beats by the end of the practice session. I can write that down in my practice book, and then come back the next time and say, all right, I'm going to start at 30 again, but this time I'm going to go to 50. And you're able to set a milestone that if you're doing that entirely by feel, you're not going to give yourself that goal to reach. So a metronome is a great thing. Stop thinking you have perfect timing. Even on that right hand, that chop, we're basically part of a drum set when we're doing that rhythmic beat. I want to sit there with a metronome and, like a drummer, practice tick, 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 tick. I don't want to be like, you want to be even.
I don't want you to be
You're
like
setting
that
that
either.
pace right there. Practice with the metronome to
Don't
make you much better.
play with me like that.
Another thing to stop doing right now, John, is saying, I can't do that. I will get that a lot of times with mandolin players.
That's just
my
not
students,
helpful in any way, shape, or
your
form.
hands are made in a way that mine aren't, or any of those things. I love to show them, okay, you think so? I can do this with my left hand because I've been doing it for 30 years. Watch me try to do that with my right hand. It has not been doing that. Even though I'm right-handed, I can't do it anymore. So the things that you're seeing me do here aren't because I have a special left hand. It's because I've trained that hand to do it.
Jeremy, I have a special left hand.
You have all kinds of special things. But work on these techniques. It takes a lot to get that fourth finger to hold that heavy tension G string down and get a clear note. Don't start all the way up here on the where the frets are the widest. Jump way up this neck where I'm all the way up to the 10th fret there with my middle finger. Practice up there where your fingers are tighter together, and then use the natural progression of the frets getting farther and farther apart to eventually get to this G string or G chord where my fingers can all hold those notes clearly. But don't think that I have some magical power here or that other mandolin players do. It came from making yourself do it. So quit saying, I can't do that. You can, it's just going to take you some time. John, the number one thing to stop doing now is think there are shortcuts. If you've been listening to a mandolin player that you love, if there's somebody that in your family that plays it or a friend that you've seen play it, you're like, man, I wish I could do that. Why is it I can't do that? Don't dismiss the amount of time that they have spent to get there. It takes a lot. I know that anytime I would watch Bob Ross paint, and he said, oh, we're just painting a happy little tree here. Can you do that? I'd say, no, I can't do that, Bob. I haven't been doing it for 50 years. I know it looks easy when you do it, but if I do it, it looks like a rock.
I could do it.
You can't. So don't dismiss the fact that Bob Ross had done that for, 50, 60 years before he had his channel. The same thing for other players. You need to put in the time. There is no shortcut to it. The more you sit, if you can sit every day, even if it's for 20 minutes a day, if you can get 3 hours a day, every other day, make sure you're practicing your instrument as much as possible. You will see much more return. I wish there was a shortcut to it. If there was, we would be selling that. The secret to that shortcut on our channel and in the store. We would be very wealthy people, but there is no shortcut.
Are you sure that the magic wasn't in the squirrel?
There's a happy. It's a happy little tree. We're gonna put a happy little tree
He
over
had a
here.
little squirrel in his pocket.
You know, Bob Ross is coming back. He's pretty famous. They have Bob Ross T-shirts in school now. Anyway, guys, thank you for sitting in for the top 5 things to stop doing right now. I hope you learned something out of it. Maybe got some ideas. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the accessories that we added. Is there anything that we missed that you love? We'd love to hear what you're using and what really made a difference in your playing. Well, guys, you saw me holding this mandolin during this video. If it's something you were wondering, what is that instrument? This is actually the Buis from over in Poland, John. They flew this one. It came in over all the way across the ocean from Poland. A great mandolin. We did a review on the standard. I love this mandolin a whole bunch. If you guys are interested in that, check out this video here to hear about some of the great instruments being built by the Buis workshop.